It'll come
build
down.
it up just to bring me down.
Somebody
Don't worry,
like
he does that
you
for fun.
come and take our money to tell us what we're doing wrong. You know?
G'day everyone, Pete Techman Coman here for a very, very, very special episode of The Tech Effect. We have a very special guest today, and to help me introduce this guest, we have the other guy, Mr. Mark, the bearded tech skiing. Welcome, Mark.
Hey, crowd goes wild. Listen to
They
him.
always do.
G'day, Pete. How are you, mate?
Really well. It's getting hot over here. We had like this weekend, weekend just gone. It was hot and humid and yeah. So
nobody likes a bragger, here. Pete. It's cold over here, and it's getting colder.
That's what happens.
What happens in the northern and the southern hemispheres, I suppose. One turns, the other one goes the other way.
It's winter Pete, where you are, Mark. It's winter, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. Hey, so look, before I introduce our next person, I put the challenge.
Guest.
Yeah,
Special
look,
guest.
it's super. It's a huge show today. I'm really excited. Huge. Like but I put the challenge out to you, Pete, and I said, look, Pete, we need a big name.
Superstar.
We need a superstar, right?
Rockstar.
And like a true FedEx guy, you definitely delivered.
Always deliver.
But what happened was, I said to you, Pete, get us a big name. And you went, oh, cool, I've got it. I got JT on the show. And I went, really? Yep. Really? Jonathan
JT,
Thurston. Jonathan Thurston. I've gone, oh, and you've got, what? No. And okay, I've got, Don't tell me you got Justin Timberlake.
You said Rockstar.
That's right.
I've gone, oh no, and you've gone, no, not Justin Timberlake, a little bit older. And I've gone, you are kidding me. You are kidding me. You've got James Taylor on the show. And you've gone.
Mark, you know what? All this goes to show is you don't know much about who's famous in AV. You know? If you had been in this business for years, you would know that when he talks about JT, he's talking about Jason Tirado.
Oh, not only the one and only Jason Tirado.
Yes.
Mate,
listen,
how are you?
I guess you just moved to Australia, huh? So you just got there? Because listen, man, I'm well known in Australia. Even my wife, when I tell her where I'm going, she goes, "Oh, they love you in Australia." I
They do.
Welcome to the show, Jason. Great to have you on, mate. Thank you.
Thank you.
What an intro.
Wait, you were hammering me for so long, I couldn't let it go on any longer. I had to drag you back down.
So many JTs in this world that are famous, but no one other than you, that's for sure.
That's it. That's my industry rock star. You know, I mean, I remember, geez, we go way back, Jason. I mean, I remember one of our first meetings where you came out to Australia. You were working for Crestron at the time, and we met at the University of the Sunshine Coast, and we're sitting in this boardroom, like the IT director's boardroom, and everyone's, being very prim and proper. And I said something to Jason, like, oh yeah, we're not really happy about this and blah, blah, blah. And then I remember someone on the IT team said, no, all right, well, we can have this conversation later. It's like Jason's gone, no, tell me what's the issue you've got. And I'm like, okay, right. And that was it. You confronted it straight away. I'm like, okay, if you want to really know, I'll tell you what my problem is.
That's been our relationship ever since, Peter.
Exactly.
From
that day.
Yeah.
No matter what I show you, you've got something wrong with it. That's your brand. I was showing you something the other day. I remember, and you're like, "Oh man, that's so cool. That's so cool." Well, but can you add this into it too? I mean, like why not? Why can't you just add it on? But listen, man, I've learned to kind of just let that stuff roll off my back when I'm dealing with you.
It's constructive feedback or something, isn't it? That's what Pete calls it.
What I remember, Pete, you remember when you came to Budapest? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yep.
Do you remember that? Yeah. I mean,
love that.
Yeah, I mean, that was, kidding aside, having somebody like you who has.
Oh, don't inflate his ego any more than he needs to.
Hang
Come
on.
on.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
It'll come
Build
down.
it up just to bring me
Having
down.
somebody
Don't worry.
like
He does that
you
for fun.
come and take our money to tell us what we're doing wrong. You know? There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. I mean that. There's nothing like it.
Yeah. for every penny he sticks in the emotional piggy bank, he pulls $10 out.
Exactly. It's like a reverse ATM.
No, but the thing that I love about Lightware, the company you're currently working for, is that they actually do listen. I remember on that trip, I was with Gergely and I'm in the room and I'm saying, you've got to stop like putting this huge branding all over your products, like the switches on the wall and stuff. Like I said, make it subtle. Like I'm not saying either don't brand it or make it very, very subtle, like do black on black or white on white or something like that. And because like, it's like, the what I call it, it's like a dog pissing on every light pole, right? Like it's leaving its mark. And it's like, but why? But you're trying to convince architects to put your product in. Why put all this branding all over it that no one likes? Right. And next thing you know, I go to Infocom, catch you on the stand, and there it is, black on black, white on white with the branding. It's like,
and I'll tell you what happened then, Jason. Pete walks up to me, he goes, "See that? My idea." That was it. Walked off.
Right. Well, look, he deserves to feel good about himself for some of the things he does.
Yeah, I gotta feel better about myself. But look, before Lightware, let's for the people, for the two people in the industry that don't know you, Jason. All right, for their benefit,
Mark and Mark's mom.
Oh yeah.
Look, I must have missed the invite when you come to Australia and went to the Sunshine Coast Uni. I was just I don't know. I was just wrong.
The other guy.
I was just the other guy. Who's that other guy you said to come, Pete?
Jason, like we go way back, and then like prior to when we first met, I mean, you were with AMX, right? And AMX back in the day, like obviously it's changed a lot now, but back in the day in Australia, AMX was the go-to control solution and switching and all that kind of stuff. And like you cut your teeth there, and then like tell us a bit about your history, like where you've come from and to where you are today.
Well, I started out as a rep, manufacturer's rep in California. A good friend of mine, Steve Alexander, university buddy, hired me as his first employee. It was funny, it was in my late 20s. I needed a job. I was looking for a job. I had some part-time stuff, and he'd started this company, and he said, "Listen, I need somebody that I can trust because the company's in my house. Like I've got to give you a bedroom. You got to come into my house every morning, and go to work." And so he's like, I know I can trust you, so you come and you go in that bedroom and you answer the phone. And so that was the beginning. And from there, I went on, joined AMX. But I can tell you want to say something, Peter. You can't.
No, I do. Come on. There's something you're not telling us. There's something you're not telling us, Jason. What were you doing prior to AMX?
You mean my acting career?
Yes.
It gets bigger.
Superstar. Here we go.
I knew we were getting a big name. I didn't know it was this big.
Yeah.
Yes.
Listen, Mark, go back and check out the Disney movie Blank Check, because there's a delivery man in that scene that really stole the show.
Really? Oh, yeah. I'm definitely going to find that out.
Yeah, you check that out. IMDb, baby. Oh,
insert snippet here.
He was Mr. Hollywood, right? Mr. Hollywood. Back in the day, he was Mr. Hollywood. There you go.
I gave it all up for this.
Yeah, two talking to two like a
I'm like a failed soap opera star, I'm like a failed soap opera star, bitter about all that didn't happen. And you know what? Here I am.
There you go. So you gave up acting. You went, all right, this is not for me. I've got bigger fish to fry. And you decided you joined AMX. You were there for how long?
I was there for almost 4 years as a director, and then but at 8 years as a rep and 4 years as a director.
Gotcha. So 12 years all up, right? Yeah, and then you moved on to Crestron from there?
Crestron. Yeah. I was the first director of international sales at Crestron. And actually one of the things, I don't know, we shouldn't go into that too much history. I was there. It went great. Had a great time. Met a lot of really wonderful people in Australia. I mean, that was really when I started coming to Australia, was as a Crestron guy, you know, and getting to know Jason, right? You know, and
we spoke about on our last show, we spoke about Jason Lewis, JL. He's entered our competition for Show Us Your Rack.
Show us your rack.
Show us your rack. That's our competition.
I've seen his rack, man. He's gonna lose.
Well, he fronted up with he fronted up with a pretty good rack. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Mark, I'd take your word for it.
Well, so, Pete's just a talker, mate. You know, he talk about racks all day long, but until he shows us one of his own, then
exactly.
We don't believe him.
Exactly.
so you're at Crestron.
Jason Lewis and Vicky Dial and and Craig. I mean, all that. Oh gosh, there were so many wonderful people there at the Crestron Australia office. It was really one of my favorite places to go, you know, in the world. I loved it.
And that really took off. Like when you were there, I remember when we first met, that was really like when Crestron, I think there was some, to market issues, you know, like trying to get the product to market and things like that. And then things started to come together, and I think Hills at the time was distributing. And then I think Crestron then took over distribution, or Crestron Australia took over distribution, and everything just really, actually, you know what it was? It was when HD-based, well, in my opinion, it was when HD-based T sort of hit the market, and AMX had a lot of problems with their HD-based T solution, and Crestron had a lot more experience because they'd been doing something similar for a number of years, like delivering over a Cat X cable. And then, so it was my understanding was an easier transition for them. And a lot of people in Australia who'd put out AMX solutions and had problems with it, they were then kind of like, well, let's have a look at Crestron. And I think for me, that was like the turning point for Crestron in Australia, that when it really started to take off. Because I think prior to that, people saw it as a home solution, and AMX was the corporate solution.
Yeah.
So you think it had to do with the HD-based T implementation? Well,
just from my own experience, we deployed the first DVXs and DGXs in the world. They were still in beta mode, right? And we had to sign off on it and say, yeah, we understand it's still beta. And we deployed those, and we had a lot of problems with it. And then and a lot of other contractors and other people had the same issues that we did. Right. And everyone started looking for alternate solutions, because everyone believed that like the HD-based T model was, this digital transportation model was the right thing to do, but they wanted a system that was solid, right? And then that's when I think Crestron came into its own, because Crestron's going, hey, we've got a product here, it's competitively priced and it works.
Yeah.
So you think, I'm guessing, Jason, that you think it's probably from the time that you were coming to Australia, at the time that you joined, and you made some critical strategic decisions,
Mark.
And Pete's just completely shot you down in flames and says nothing about you.
A 5-minute rant about Age of Taurus cable it just happened to coincide,
Yeah. So he's giving you one back, like he's inflated your ego, and then he's just absolutely come in with a big right hook.
Yeah. Mark, thank you for realizing that. I think you could see it in my eyes, right?
Yeah, I could see the pain. It's just
right.
Well, so all right, so let's move on for that. So how long were you at Crestron for?
I was there for 7 years.
7 years, and then I think then the next time we met, it was at Infocom, and you're at RGB Spectrum. Is that right?
RGB Spectrum, yeah. So you remember I said I was a rep when I was back in California at the very beginning of the career. Yeah. RGB Spectrum was one of our core manufacturers, and so I'd known the CEO for many years. We hadn't been working together closely in 10 or 11 years. But when I left Crestron, it was a good change for me. And Bob Marcus, the CEO, and Scott Norder was the COO, and I had worked for Scott when I was at AMX. He was the director of marketing, and we had kind of been colleagues there. And so through a sort of professional network of people, it really felt like the next best place And I was but I want to get to where I met Gergely. Can I talk about Gergely for a second?
Well, so who you got it? Who is Gergely? How did?
All right.
How did you meet
Here we
Gergely?
go.
Yeah, here we go. I was introduced to Gergely by a man named Murugan. This is the guy, man. This is like reading the Bible. It's like reading Genesis. I keep going back through all these, you know, and so beget so and so, and then so and so moved on to so and so. Yeah, and then so Murugan Parmasivam was the guy at Crestron who really had a big contribution to creating Crestron India, and he and I had remained good friends after I left. And he had gone to Lightware, and he said to me one day, he said, Jason, listen, this Lightware thing is starting to take off. I think you should meet the CEO because there's some work to do in the US, and maybe you could become a part of it.
Yeah, so Gergely is the founder of Lightware, right? Founder, so he started this from scratch. I've seen like the first box that he's built, right? It's there in the office at HQ in Budapest, right? He built this from nothing.
Look, I tell you, if I'll give you just one simple little story about Gergely that I just think is so telling, right? This man's family was in Romania during Ceausescu. And while Ceausescu was being overthrown, right? He's like 5 or 6. His family flees the country and goes to Hungary. Now, have you ever thought about anybody who left to go to Hungary to have a better life?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, wow.
Who decides that that's the country I'm going to go to? Because you know what? There's opportunity over there,
that's
you know?
Right.
Yeah. You know, so anyway, his family flees to Hungary, and he ends up being accepted into the most prestigious university. It's one of the top prestigious universities in Europe, but in Budapest by far. Graduates with an engineering degree, and he goes out and he just starts fixing things, right? Fixing projectors, you know, stuff like this. And as he starts making some money fixing projectors, he starts not only building stuff, but he starts hiring all these engineers that are coming out of the Budapest University, software engineers, hardware engineers, you know. And as he's building it with these classically trained engineers, which, and I just find it really fascinating, because you hear about stuff in the AV business where you're like, oh, we've got so many engineers, and they're all CTS. I mean, there's nothing wrong with CTS, but there's a difference between being an AV engineer and a guy who graduated with, you know, a master's degree or a doctorate from a major university, you know, major European university. So, you know, it's just different.
And so it was always this unknown, right? Unknown about this product. Like, who is? I mean, for me, what was Lightware? Was it a rebadged product out of Asia somewhere and blah blah blah? I don't know anything about this product. Yeah. And then a few years back, I went over. I had the opportunity to go over to Budapest and meet the team. And from that moment, it changed my whole perspective of the company and the product. I'm like, this is no OEM product. This is nothing that's rebadged. I got to meet the engineers. I got to meet the founder, Gergely. I got to talk to these people. I got to see what they were doing and getting, like, you know, tell them how they could improve their product, right?
Yeah, most companies won't listen to me at that level.
That's right. They listen to
me. You've created an animal.
Specialist Pete Techman, you know, receivers that just stand in front of Pete and go, sure, Pete, sure.
Exactly. But that changed everything for me. Like meeting the people and seeing the company and getting hands-on with the product. I'm like, from that moment, I'm like, I feel confident and secure with the product. There was no doubt in my mind that what they were building and what they were doing, that they were on the right track. Right.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, Peter. And look, I had the same feeling, and that's why I committed my professional life, and now, you know, the rest of my professional life, to this company. I felt the same thing immediately. And there were a couple of things that jumped out at me. One was, like I mentioned, the competency, just the sheer competency throughout the organization. And then also Gergely's personal philosophy about information, which I think is related to his background as a child and the communist fall and all this stuff. But he has this very unique attitude towards information, which is it should be available. It should be open. Yeah. It needs to be accessible. You know, any information that you have should be accessible to whoever you're dealing with, you know, and that transparency of his personality is manifested in the product. Like when you go to the open API of a Lightware product, you will find every possible piece of information. So it's not like you got to call somebody up and go, oh, can you let me in this door, or let me in that door, or backdoor me this, or blah, blah, blah. If we see it, you see it. And it's just part of him and the way he approaches the world.
Yeah. But how did you didn't finish telling us the story of how you came on board with Lightware. You said you working with somebody.
So Murugan introduced us, and I said, hey, let's meet at InfoComm. And it was in Vegas that year, right? So Gergely and I decided to meet at this little spot, and he brings along his guy, and I'm there, and we walk in and to the restaurant. But restaurants in Vegas during InfoComm, it's nightmare, and so crazy. I could see what was going on. And I was like, just stand here, I'll take care of this, So I went over and I made some deal with the bartender, and I said, I need 3 seats now, and so the guy was like, okay, I'll take care of it. So they cleared out 3 seats, and I got Gergely over there and sat him down. And I think the first thing I impressed him with was I got him a table, You
made it happen.
Exactly. I made it happen because I was not going to let this slip away. Right. So we just sat there and we started talking. And out of that conversation, we decided it would be good if I took a trip to Budapest. And so I said, yeah, I'd love to. So my wife and I flew out there. I bring my wife on my job interviews. She was with me at my AMX interview. Right. She was with me at my Crestron interview, because when you're hiring me, you're getting her. Actually, you're hiring her, and then you're getting me. Because she comes along. In fact, what happened in my AMX negotiation was they completely left me out of the conversation. My boss started going, well, I think the travel will probably be about 60% of the time. And she looks across him and goes, no, maybe 50 at the most, 50% at the most. And he looked at me and then he looked at her, and then he just started conducting the whole negotiation with her. So I bring her to Budapest with me, and the same thing happened. We're all sitting around talking about it after we kind of find out we like each other and we're going to go. And then I let her negotiate my life with the CEO.
Happy wife, happy life, Jason.
Yeah. The man who's worked it out a lot earlier than most. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So what year was that? What year did you come on board with Lightware?
2018, because I'll be 4 years in September. Okay. So I'll be 4 full years in September. It's like 3 years and 8 months or whatever right now. But
so you come into Lightware, but you didn't. Where did you start as a rep for Lightware?
Started at the top, mate. He doesn't start anywhere.
Yeah, well, this is how did we get from 0 to hero in 4 years? I'm intrigued about this.
Mark, I've got a private YouTube channel. I'll sign you up for it. You can register. I'll give you all the secrets. There was an existing distribution network in the United States that was owned by some other people, but they were using a Lightware name. And so part of what we wanted to do was not only make it better, but we wanted to exert control. And so what we made a deal with Gergely was that if I came on as a consultant and for 6 or 7 or 8 months, I did what I was supposed to, then we would, as a group, move forward and reform the Lightware North America organization. And so that was what we did. So I started off just like, just give me a phone and, and a computer, and I'll just start working. And then, it worked out. So right now things are, it's exploding, man. It's just exploding. We got some good stuff coming.
But I think for me, like with Lightware, because when they sort of first started, they had a lot of kind of almost, I'd like to say, Me Too products. You know what I mean? Like they similar to what Crestron offered or Extron and so on. But then you guys started thinking outside the box, right? And then you started looking at, hang on, how can we be different? And I think one of the first products that you came out with where you were different and are still different is with the relationship that you've got with Cisco, right? And you've got the, able to use the Touch 10s and so on. Like, how did that all come about?
So when I first got to Lightware, there were 3 things that I took away. There was the open API, the diagnostics, and the analytics, right? And the open API was that information thing I'm talking about, right? The application programmer's interface, the way that you interface with the box. And I'd seen their logical event manager. And because of my history in control systems, the first thing I thought of was, okay, well, here's a simple way to do some very if-then statements, right? Just some Boolean logic, right? That you just want to go if this, then that, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, Cisco was opening up their API on the Touch 10. And they had just made that announcement. I think it was 9.1.3 when they opened it up with Cisco CE. And in my mind, I thought, you know what? Here's this touch screen that's been sitting with every single Cisco item that they've ever sold, and they're including it now for free. And all it's doing is making phone calls. It's just making a phone call, you know? And this is in the age of apps. I thought, well, why can't we just go ahead and take advantage of their API and our API and make it like peanut butter and chocolate, you know?
But on top of that, there was a Crestron or a AMX or a control system in the room. So you had two touchscreens. So there was two factors to that. It was like, which one do I use as a user? And then also the cost element on top of that, like you're adding extra cost to control the room. I already have a touch panel in the room.
That's right. That's exactly it. And so I guess because of my control system background, that was the first thing I thought. I was like, hey, here's this API box that does whatever I tell it to. Here's this touch screen sitting in the room. Let's just connect them, you know? And so we wrote a little plan, and we started our work, and we made a little configuration wizard on our website so people could go through and ask questions and answer questions, and they would come out with a working system. And again, we really try to take, look, I'm no genius, but these guys are, and what I just decided was, if we could funnel people through a system that would allow them to have a predictable outcome, as opposed to just waiting for some smart guy with a laptop to show up and save their lives, maybe people would like that. Maybe people would like that. Just a repeatable, simple, predictable outcome that if they do the instructions, they're going to get the same thing every time. Yeah. And that was really kind of the core of what we started with that. I mean, ideally, when we were talking about pitching it, I wanted to pitch it as a USB accessory. And I use those words really specifically, USB, because they've got the USB attachment. It's literally true, but also because people are familiar with USB accessories. Right. If you talk to somebody, you say, oh, a USB accessory, you think, oh, yeah, that thing I plug into my computer. There's this instant, that's not that hard. I do that all the time. Right. And so when we were talking about it with customers, I was really trying to use that terminology because I wanted them to have that impression about the experience you're talking about. Right.
Yeah.
So you move along, and you've just hit the nail on the head with USB. We're moving now into the Age of Taurus. And I think Lightware's done a really good job of bringing to the fore, like in years gone by, we've talked about IT and AV convergence. Now, Lightware's actually not talking about IT and AV convergence; it's talking about USB and AV convergence, right? And you guys have to be the front runners in USB-C product manufacturing and delivering and information. Currently at the moment,
and integration of those products, right? Because you're right. I mean, like even the camera that I'm on right now, I mean, that's like it's a USB camera. Like the microphone I'm using is a USB microphone. I mean, that's the kind of product that's getting rolled out into a lot of meeting spaces. Maybe not the larger meeting spaces. Maybe they're using, maybe some more advanced systems and technologies. But for the majority of small to medium spaces, you've got USB peripherals in the room, and it's like, and it's so uncontrolled as well. Like in the past, like how does it operate? And so I think it was a mess. What was happening? Like, how do you control all that?
I think Peter, you're onto something. And to go back to your HD-based T thing, right? It was a mess. It really was a mess. And everybody was caught between analog and digital, and nobody really knew which way the world was going to go. Or even if they did know, they couldn't go all at once because that's not the way things work. And so the HD-based T thing created some order out of the mess that was existing, right? And I to me, this is a very similar inflection point right now. There's USB things out there. Some people think they're simple. Some people know they're more complex. Some of them work together. Some of them don't, but nobody seems to know why. And there's an enormous amount of mystery, around USB and USB-C, especially right now. And that's really where we saw opportunity. We decided, okay, if we can figure this out and we can do it with our engineers, and come at it from an engineering standpoint. And you said something earlier that I want to go back to. You said you complimented us really. You said you were thinking outside the box. And I'd say we were listening outside the box.
Yeah.
You know, that was really what made the difference. Is this wasn't an in the box thing. What we did is we went to a customer and we said, hey, what's the problem? And they said, oh, these USB things are coming into my life and I don't know what to do. You know, I got this thing, and then somebody else brings in that thing, and I still got to connect to that. What, you know, and we went away and we thought about it, and then we just kept checking back. Hey, is this the right path? Is this the right path? Do you agree with this decision? You know, and in that way, that's probably the thing I'm most proud of, is that I think we listened enough to get this one as close to right as we can. You know,
but that's like it sounds so simple though, like to listen, to ask questions, right, and ask the right questions from the people who, whether they design it, whether they install it, whether they program it, whether they use it, like it's a mix of people that you need to be speaking to. And the fact that you're actually asking these questions, what is the problem that we're trying to solve, and then to go away and design something, I think is great, because you guys, this is not you guys built this from the ground up. Like, it's not as if like you've just added on to bits and pieces. You've gone, look, let's engineer this from the ground up, and you built it, right?
Right. That's right. That's right. And, you know, you say it sounds simple, and it is simple. You know, it's what's not simple, I guess, is doing it. You know, it's
there's so much perceived voodoo. Well, it is voodoo around USB-C, right? But you know, it comes back to, Jason, you were saying earlier about the ethos of sharing information. Now, I've been on your website, and you know, and the amount of USB-C training, actually, the amount of training on your website, period, is probably second to none. I don't think I've seen anything that's so well delivered, well structured, or just thorough is probably the better word. In any website training, and let's face it, the last 12 months there's been a hell of a lot of website training going on, right? So, I've been through a lot of the USB-C stuff and gone, this now makes sense. This is cutting through some of that voodoo, and to most of it is voodoo. Why doesn't that work with that one? Why doesn't that work with that? I have no idea. You know, a couple of years ago, I plug in a USB-C laptop and wondering why I can't get an image out there. Well, you know,
doesn't support video.
That was one of the things. It doesn't support video.
You know, really, really, thank you, Mark. Thank you. That is a huge compliment to our training department and the people who spent a lot of time and energy putting that stuff together, and the research that went into it. And we are proud of it, and I'm really glad to hear that you've looked at it. I'm really glad to hear that it speaks to you, because we take it seriously. You know, and I think it's funny. You can have a lot of emphasis on product training, which is good because the products have the technology in them. You can also have a lot of emphasis on the science of what you're doing, right? The science of audio, the science of video, the science of Ethernet and TCP/IP and all that. And if you do this first part, it really makes the products a lot much easier. You know, if you start with the product, you're sort of assuming people know all this stuff, and a lot of them don't, you know, or they think they do, but they don't, you know, and now you're telling them something about over here, and it's not as effective, you know. So we really do try to place a lot of emphasis on let's share the science behind the stuff first, you know.
Yeah. We're going into the age of Taurus. You've got this cool product. I was at one back when our last ISC was that 2020
last year.
Feels like 5 years ago. But you know, my first experience with the great JT was actually I flew into Amsterdam and literally
he was waiting there in the Tesla to pick you up.
I jumped in a Tesla and I'm going, I have to do what Coman talks about, getting these Teslas. Right. So I get to my accommodation, jump in the shower. I don't know. It's coming around 5 o'clock. Jump in the shower.
There's a knock at your door.
Bang, straight back out, and I'm going to the Taurus product launch. And here's this big, vibrant, fast-talking, energetic JT, and I was a little bit late. You know, I was sort of 15.
Timberlake was there.
So look, Taurus, and I went, this is actually a bit of a game-changing product. You know, this is bringing so much stuff together and making life easier for integrators.
What was it that jumped out at you, Mark? I mean, you know, when you make that statement, what was it that you thought changed?
Oh, look, I think it's It was the USB host switching. I think was pretty powerful. What have I got in here? Now you're sort of bringing in Dante.
Correct.
Yeah, and you had a bit of a product line. There's a whole story about how this sort of came together, and much like we've just sort of gone through. And I went, there's not a great deal of product out there that I've seen that fits the mold or gives the ability, because USB-C is a Voodoo, right? And it's
Voodoo right now. I know. You know what? It's so funny. I'll tell you a quick. How are we doing on time? Are we doing okay?
We're good.
Oh yeah. Yes.
It's all about you, JT.
Yeah.
Peter,
This is your show. This is your platform.
I know. For you to say it's about anybody else is just it feels unnatural, honestly.
Oh, get out of here, Mr. Hollywood.
Oh my God. Well, but to this last Voodoo point, then we'll let Mark go get some breakfast. I was at a real live demo in San Francisco last week with a client, and there's the corporate client and there's the integrator, and we're all sitting around and we're all talking about some stuff. And in the other room, the techs are actually putting the Taurus through its paces because they're testing it for potential deployment. And so we're talking with this customer. They've got hundreds of rooms and the conversation's going well. All the stuff you and I are excited about right now, right? It's happening in the room, blah, 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 blah. And then the tech walks in the room. There's like 8 people in there. And he comes in, he sits down, he goes, Taurus doesn't work. And I was like, what? And he goes, Taurus doesn't work. I said, what do you mean it doesn't work? He goes, I've got it plugged in, and I got this going to that display, and then I can't get this thing going to the display. And I said, all right, let's go look at it. Come on. So we walk in the other room, and now all 8 people are coming with me, and so we're all, the client, the potential client who I really had a great relationship with up until about 30 seconds ago, is now following us into the room. And I go in and I look and I can see he's got this little Mac Mini, and he's got my Taurus, and he's got the 2 displays. And the first thing I noticed was he's got this Apple USB-C cable plugged into my box and the Taurus. And I said, that cable, is that yours? And he goes, no, I got it from him. And I said, okay, is that a known good quality USB-C cable with all the connectivity required? And he goes, well, it charges the laptop, And so I said, well, come here, let me show you something. So we went into the tool set and I showed him how the cable wasn't passing any video, And I said, that's not a good cable, man. It's not, let's start there. So we pulled the cable out. I had my known good USB-C cable. I plugged it in, bam, the thing started working. And I mean, number one, it was a good story for Lightware, and it's nice. But it also kind of goes back to this theme, which is if he plugged it in and he didn't know why it didn't work, all he's going to do is quit. He's just going to leave. He's going to come back in the room, announce that the thing doesn't work. Now Lightware sucks at Avadex, and I don't get the client, blah, blah, and he never plugs it in again, and that's just the end of the story. But it's not true. It's not true. And what you have to do is you have to be able to show people the tools, hey man, you think you're doing something with this USB stuff, but it ain't that simple. But let me show you how you can use these tools to really help yourself,
Yeah. That's good. And we went through that a couple of weeks ago. We caught up here in New York, and you went and you opened up the GUI, web-based GUI. I seen it. Was it a web-based GUI?
No, it's an executable.
It's executable. Okay.
That's executable.
And you went into it, and we had a cable plugged in and we were able to actually see whether or not it would pass video or not. And I was like, wow, I mean, like you're on site, as a tech, you're trying to troubleshoot, something's not working. To have that information at your fingertips is invaluable, right? Because how do you know? I mean, like you said, it charges my laptop. So maybe there's an expectation that's going to work for video as well.
Yeah,
that's the downside of universal, right? Like it's you say universal, and so everybody thinks that it's universal. But what they really mean is the physical connector will fit in,
Yeah, that's right. So here we go. Right, it's called. You ready? Name that acronym. Right, it's like such a creative name, and I'm gonna.
He's googling it. Look at him. I can see him. He's like, "Where's the mouse?"
Hang on. Let me just.
Are we playing NTA?
Let me just get my my headset here, and so for every, and you should be able to hear this. For every time you get an answer correct, I'm going to do this.
Correct.
Oh, hang on.
It's a bit loud.
Correct.
Did you hear that? Is that loud enough?
Yeah, plenty.
That was
All
loud.
right. And for every time you get one incorrect.
Incorrect.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So
No
I've done a lot of
expense
homework.
spared on this show.
As you can see, I've done a lot of homework here. Okay. It's called Name That Acronym. Here we go. You've got 10 acronyms with a bonus point. All right.
Okay.
So you could potentially get 11 points out of this. Here we go. Pete, you've got to keep score. All right. You haven't got much to do here. You just got to keep score. And as long as you can count to 11,
Jeez, that's a struggle.
you'll be fine. Here we go. All right. Well, let's get you warmed up because this is a really easy one. Ready? Number 1. AV.
Audio visual.
Right. Hang on.
Correct.
I got to press the button. I forgot about that. All right. Number 2. IP.
Internet protocol.
Correct.
All right. Yeah, see, this is don't get lured into a false sense of security here, Jason. This is going to get harder from here on in. Okay. Number 3. Now you've got the first 2. You should be able to get the third one. AV over IP. I should actually tell you the acronym. AVOIP.
Audio visual over internet protocol.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Correct.
We're going well.
Incorrect.
Okay.
Giving away go ahead.
Yeah, I'm giving you the answer. All right. Here we go. HDMI.
High definition multimedia interface.
Oh,
Correct.
yes. Look at you go. I think Pete got that one wrong, actually.
No, that was like the only one I got right.
All right. Number 5. SDVOE.
Software defined video over Ethernet.
Oh,
Correct.
Here we go. All right. Here we go. SDI.
Something digital interface. Oh, hang on. Standard digital interface.
Incorrect.
What?
Oh,
Serial. Serial digital
Oh, I
interface.
thought it was standard. Okay. Sorry for any
All right.
that.
This one might test your design skills. Pete, I didn't put this one in last time, but you should get this. You ready? OFE.
Oh yeah.
OFE. Can you use it in a sentence?
Pete, I'll give that one to you. This laptop is OFE.
This furniture is OFE.
Only for everyone.
Incorrect.
All right, it actually stands for owner furnished equipment.
Oh, dude. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so client supplied sort of stuff. Yeah, sort of
All right.
stuff.
Good.
All right, here we go. HDCP.
Hang on. It's high definition control protocol. It's HD's high definition control protocol.
Incorrect.
Correct. Yeah. What is it?
Do you want to throw that one in, Pete? Test you through. High bandwidth digital content protection.
Oh, there
High
you go.
bandwidth digital content protection. Oh, that's an old one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi.
That's an old one.
High bandwidth digital. That's a good one.
All right.
I should have known that, man. That's right up my alley. All right.
Okay. Dante.
Dante stands for network audio.
Was
What do you think it stands for?
it's got network written on it.
Digital audio network transmission.
Oh, I'm going to give you an
Incorrect.
You're close.
Yeah, I just should get an incorrect. I
Digital audio network through Ethernet. There you go.
Even
All right.
half a point.
And number 10. This is one. Are you ready? This might stump you, right? Because I don't know anyone that actually knows this. A VIXA.
Audio Visual Information Association with an X.
Is it an experience or something?
Incorrect.
Audio Visual Integrated Experience Association.
Yeah.
Here's your bonus point. You talked about it. CTS.
Certified Technology Specialist.
Finish on a
Correct.
win. Well done.
6.5. 6.5.
Oh my! How did I do against Pete? Did I do better than Pete?
I think Pete got 5.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, this is this is all you got to do to be a CEO or a president. Yeah. You just got to get higher than 6, and you qualify. Is that on your YouTube channel actually?
I'm about to go get real high, so I think I've accomplished it.
Jason Tirado, mate, it's been fantastic.
Hang on. Yeah, one thing you actually brought it to my attention that we didn't talk about.
Oh, what?
Your alliance with SDVOE.
Oh,
yeah.
No, because last year at Integrated Systems Europe, I believe you announced that you guys are signed on to be an SDVOE partner. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So SDVOE, foundationally, it's one of those technologies that we really believe in. We think the mission that they're on is the right mission. I personally know Justin Kennington from our time working together at Crestron, and I saw his great success, when he jumped off and formed this association. And just as soon as we could, we wanted to be members and get involved. And so like you were talking about, Peter, how some of our product line kind of had to develop in the last several years, and we were kind of really listening to the market. The market was telling us they wanted SDVOE solutions. And I remember it very specifically from a different consultant in New York City saying SDVOE. And so we joined the alliance. We're big supporters. Love Justin, and very soon we're going to have our implementation. So
this year, are we talking this year?
I would say hopefully by the end of this year. Yeah, we'll have the product. We're in development right now.
Okay. And Taurus available now?
Taurus is available now.
Yep.
I was about 4 versions. Put the 4th finger up. 4 different model numbers.
Correct.
There's 2 2x1s and 2 4x2s. Is that correct?
Let me wrap this up for you, Mark. Oh. It was a good try, though. Jason Tirado. Been a pleasure to meet you. Been a pleasure to see you guys. We'd love to answer your questions at sales.na@lightware. Or visit us anytime at lightware.com.
He's a pro, isn't he? Look at him. Look at him go. Hey, he's done this before.
Look at him go. All right. Awesome. Jason Tirado, thank you so much for coming on the show, mate. And we really appreciate your time. And no doubt, when you come to sunny Queensland, look, I'll be sitting at the airport waiting for you in my Tesla. To take you wherever you want, really, I
hope to see you soon, man. I hope to see you soon. Pete, I'll see you soon, okay? Take it easy, guys.
Thanks, mate. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.